there's another story about my grandpa. This must have been early in his marriage, and they didn't have maybe, one or two children. But this was during the time after the Cherokee Indians had been moved on the Trail of Tears going to Oklahoma or somewhere to a reservation. But there was a band of Indians over in North Carolina that they never got them all gathered up. They eventually let them stay there and granted them so much land in North Carolina, and that would be Cherokee, North Carolina, where the Indians have, possession of quite a bit of land over there. But anyway, at the time there was work going on in different places, and on the Indians, there were still some Indians that traveled around through and come out of North Carolina over into Cage Cove, and there was a couple of Indians that had come through there, and I don't know where they had been, but they came through there around where my grandpa lived, and they were sick. And my grandpa took them in to his home, and he helped those Indians with their illness till they could get better and they could travel again. And then they went on their way, and they went back to the Cherokee, North Carolina, where they came from. And the chief over there at that time, the main chief of all the tribes, they told him the story about my grandpa helping them and taking care of them. And one of my cousins has got a letter that was written. There's a copy of a letter that's printed in one of the books about the history, and it was talking about that chief over in North Carolina gave my grandpa written permission to hunt on Indian lands. At the time, he was the first person that had ever been granted permission to hunt on Indian grounds that the Indians owned. Anytime he wanted to, he could come over there and hunt. But that, so far as they know, that was the only record of that chief ever giving anybody permission to hunt on the Indian lands, because he'd been so kind to their people. But there is a letter that was written out and documented that gave him permission to do that.